What's going on, guys? Alright, I'm back on 91 Firebird. I'm in the process of doing the wheel bearings and the races. I've already done the driver's side, so I've got everything laid out right here as far as the old bearings and stuff go. This side had a little bit of a wobble to it. It wasn't too bad. The other side's pretty tight, but I'm going to go ahead and replace them with better. And what I am going with is some nationals. You'll need national oil seal or the wheel seal. There's a part number 8871. This will be the outer bearing, part number A34. And of course you have the inner bearing, which is A6. So I'm going to show you on how to do the wheel bearings and the bearing races in those rotors. And we are going to start with a 3/8 hex or Allen key sledge and a long flathead screwdriver and a couple sockets. And also, of course, you need your needle nose and C-clamp and high temp bearing grease. Pop your cap for the reservoir and loosen this bolt, and you'll have another bolt down here that you'll loosen, which will take out the whole caliper. Remove the bolts, set them to the side. This one here I may end up having to use my pry bar with. Kind of pry from the back. We are going to set that right over there on top of that. I've got a big flathead here. I'm just going to put it kind of between, just right here on the edge right here. And I'm going to take a 2-3 pound sledge and hit the screwdriver and hopefully to remove the dust cap. And like I say, you just basically just work it all the way around. You can get a smaller screwdriver or try, if you can, get the flathead in there. You can probably, yeah, there it goes. Of course, and we'll be cleaning that. So I'll set this on the table. Just bend your Carter key down. You can get your needle nose in that Carter key. Kind of prise up a little bit. Take my hammer and kind of tap. And I'll be able to get that Carter key out of there. I'm going to be replacing the Carter key anyway, so it really don't matter. Sometimes they're a pain in the butt. And of course I cannot find my socket that actually fits this properly, but these here, the castle nuts, they aren't on very tight. They're just pretty much semi-snug. Like I said, they're not on real tight, but I'll show you on how to install all this here, pull it all apart and install it. And like I said, and I'm going to show you the easiest way on these here. And if y'all have never done them, or I mean, I'm sure y'all probably have, but if y'all have just basically done it by hand or doing it with a ratchet and then just checking for play, y'all do not have to do that anymore. I'm getting ready to show y'all an easier way, and after we get all this done. Take and remove this. Set that there on the tire. Bearings are going to fall out along with the washer right there. Just pull it off, and there she is. We're halfway done. Hang on a sec. Alright, This is getting down to the point where I wished I had a second person, but it's just me right now because my fiance's at work, so I don't have no help holding this camera. And I probably don't have no way of propping this damn phone up, so y'all gonna have to just bear with me with this video. Alright. Hang on. Alright. So, take a flathead screwdriver. Probably want to get one actually a little bit thinner than this, so it will actually work a little bit better. And I don't have that one. But anyway, you want to kind of get right here between the seal and the wheel. And you want to work that all the way around and try to pry this seal out. You could also come from underneath the seal and prise up that way too. And actually, probably the easiest way is, like I say, you can kind of see, try not to damage the wheel, but if you can get in between here and the seal goes down and this side kind of goes up, then you can probably take a flathead screwdriver, a longer one, pry down this way, have your hand held back here, and you'll be able to remove that seal out. Probably have to twist it to pull it out, but it'll come out. Slide it over there. Alright. This will probably be the only time y'all ever see me wear gloves, because I hate wearing gloves. I hate the way they feel. Anyway, just go in there and grab your bearing. Set that off to the side. And like I said, and then you have your race that sits off right there. Okay? That is your race. An old grease. Flip it over, which we already have the other bearing, which is over there on the tire. And now it's time to go ahead and take these races completely out of this wheel. Once we get the races and stuff out of the wheel, we can clean up all the grease, get all the grease and stuff out of the way. So, and I won't be able to hold the camera for this portion, because literally going to have to take two hands. One, having a screwdriver, my long screwdriver, which works pretty well, and my 2 to 3 pound sledge. And what you want to do, I'm hoping it's going to be clear, but it looks like it's freaking dull or dark. I don't know, can't really tell. But you want to just kind of lightly go down the wall, I'm going to call it the wall, the wheel, until the screwdriver catches. You hear it? You're on the bottom of the race. And all the way around. So, you get ready to hit this thing. Try to have it somewhat, don't have it too far at an angle. You can kind of go up a little bit, but just kind of go at it at an angle. Take the 2 to 3 pound sledge, and you're going to have to sit here for a couple minutes beating the crap out of these races to get them out of here. And once they come, get out, then we'll clean. Alright, I got that side out. You can see them laying down there on the ground. That's actually the outer here. Right now I'm working on the inner, and it takes the outer part of it is really easy to get out when you can hammer it out. It's real easy. It's just when you get to the inner part, it's kind of a pain in the butt, but keep hammering away and it'll finally come out of there. Alright, so I swung about 3 times and it finally popped out of there. So I'll bring this back over to the table. And this is what it looks like without the race. So I'm gonna go ahead and put y'all back on pause, and I'm gonna clean all this up. You can use brake cleaner in here to clean it. Probably be a little bit faster with a brake clean, but I'm gonna use paper towel and wipe all of this out. I'm basically doing the same thing I did over there, but well, with the driver's side, but If I had any more brake cleaner, I would just go ahead and clean this up with brake cleaner, but I don't. I'm just going to use dry towel. You know, so I'll be just cleaning up all the grease and getting it nice and clean. Alright, so you see I got it pretty cleaned up. Now, one thing is, probably a good time for you to go through, check to make sure that there isn't any grooves, which I know there is in this one. Hang on, let me turn back around here. Like right there, right where that bearing or the race bearing sits. You can see that. Alright. So now I know a lot of people just take and replace these because the new ones already come with the race bearings. You just have to get the seal and the bearings. These already come pre-installed with the actual races when you buy new. So I'm not even going to replace this just yet. I'm going to put the new bearings in here, but I'm going to grease all this in really nice with the high temp, get my bearings hand packed, and hopefully I can show you that process. But I'm going to have to get new gloves for that because I'm not taking these gloves and contaminating clean area. But besides that point, eventually I am going to be replacing this rotor, and I am going to be replacing that rotor. That rotor is really good still. This one, not so much. It's got a kind of a lip on the bottom side. I mean, it could probably be resurfaced, but I'm not going to worry about it. Like I said, later on, these rotors are going to be completely swapped out with probably drilled and slotted. So I'll have to do the process over again, which is no big deal. I just won't have to worry about the race part of it. I'll just install the bearings. This here is just showing you on how to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and get started in greasing all this up really nice and start getting the races and stuff put in. I'll show you how to install the races here in a minute. Taking a little bit of break real quick. Before I lube up that, I want to just let y'all know something. If you are going to be planning on replacing your shock, I mean, if you got the money to do it, to go ahead and replace the shock while you're at it, you already got the whole damn thing off. You got the tire off, got the rotor off and everything. And like I said, your front shock is literally right there. So you'll have to remove the dust shield. Looks like 3 bolts. Pull that off and you'll be right there to your shock. So while you already got it all off, and if you got bad shocks, might as well go ahead and replace them. Or wait. I mean, just like I said, this is kind of a heads up, you know, you're already there. Alright. So take a can of strawberry jam. Make sure your hands are clean, or gloves are clean, so you're not contaminating the inside of the rotor. Just get you a good gob of it. Just kind of swish it around. Swish. Swish around. Anyway, get it good and coat it in there nicely. And I like to use quite a bit. Most like, I'll just put a thin coat. I'm like, no, never. Just get it good and greased up in here. Because the more grease you have, I know the old saying goes, less is more. But in situations kind of like this, I kind of like to put a good amount in here. So that way when I do install the bearing, even though the bearing would be good and packed, hand packed, you know, at least it's still getting grease. Anyway, flip the rotor over. Whatever excess was at the bottom, and clean that off and put it right up there at the top. Kind of drag some of that grease in there. Bring it up there to the top. Alright, get on there. said, trying to hold this camera one-handed and trying to do this too at the same time, it's a little bit difficult. So like I said, she's at work right now, so I don't have anybody to hold the camera. Now you can grab your A34, which is your outer bearings. Open up the box. Like I said, I went with National. Put that up there. Take the bearings out of the cellophane. And what you want to do is you want to take this grease and you just want to coat the outside of the race bearing really good, and then pick it up and drop it in. Alright, so I got my bearing pretty well greased up all the way around. Remember that beveled in, because when you turn it where the flat end is actually going down, this here's the thin side, the other side's kind of a wide end. So I'll show you here. See the difference? That goes down. The numbers or the brand will go down. The thin side here will go up. You'll notice that there's a slight beveled edge in here, and that is where that bearing will go down just like that. Go to AutoZone or any parts place and get you a bearing, wheel bearing or race installer. It's going to look like this. There's a bolt that goes through there, which is actually sitting right there. Tighten it up a little bit. Want to make sure that your bearing is completely straight, and you set the installer on top of it. Kind of also push it a little bit, kind of get it in there a little bit straight. And with one hand holding, the other hand that I'm holding the camera with, you'll take the mini sledge. Make sure that the hammer is clean of any debris, any dirt, any grime. I'm going to wipe it down really good before I start hammering, because if there is anything on this, I don't want it to fall down into my grease, because then that's like freaking sand in with the bearings and can destroy them. I got it clean, but when you hit, you want to hit dead on, and you want to hit straight as can be. But like I said, the other hand's going to be holding that. The other hand, the right hand or left hand, or whichever hand you're going to be using, is going to be driving that down. And once you hear a different sound than a thud, it's going to sound like more of a higher tink sound. That's when you want to stop, because that means that your race bearing has fully seated. Now you can come back and run your finger down in here and feel to see how flush it is. If it's flush, good deal. If it feels like it needs to be run down a little bit more, go ahead and run it down a little bit more. You'll be able to tell. But mine is fully seated, so this extra grease that I put in here earlier, now I can run up, because it has pushed some of it out, which is fine. Just take and run that extra grease right around in that bearing. Now you don't have to put the smaller bearing in just yet. That will actually be last when you set this back on there. So what we're going to do, I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to do the other side. Alright, so got the rotor flipped over. I'm going to do this one the same way. This is the part where I wished I really had somebody holding the camera for me, or I wished I had my stand with me, because I would actually like to show exactly how to pack these bearings. Now, I do a little bit different than most people. Some people kind of do it the same way, but they're almost there, but they're a little bit off. So actually, if you want me to, I could actually technically kind of demonstrate in a way. Probably when you get ready to pack your bearing, you want at least about, I don't know, maybe $50 of grease in your palm. Works best if you keep your palm basically cupped. And what I like to do, so I'm not actually, I like to grab my bearing pretty much just like this here. And let's see here. I'll do it on the box. I'm actually right-handed, not left-handed, so it's going to be a little bit difficult. But if I had about, say, about $50 of grease right here, I want to take and I want to pack from this side. And I just kind of want to basically come here like this at an angle, and I want to drag down. I want to do this motion. But I want to, when I go to pack, I want to come at the edge, basically the edge of that grease, and I just want to work that all the way around until, or work it on one side until grease starts coming out of this side. Once grease starts coming out of this side, then I can start taking my finger and moving it little at a time. And I want to make sure that grease is coming out of this side very, very nicely. I'm not worried about if grease gets off in this area. I just want it to pack off in here. Because no matter what, by the time you get this and drop it off in here, the remaining grease that's in here, that's actually going to be on that bearing, because once I press that bearing or that race in, it's going to push the grease down, and I can take that grease and basically put it on the inside of this. So when this is actually very nicely packed, I set that down. Now the outside of the bearings are nicely coated as well. So I just want to make sure that this gets nicely packed. And like I said, then I'll wipe off the excess where it'll be kind of flat with grease. Like I said, I wish I had somebody to help hold this, because I would actually show y'all. Alright, so I got my bearing greased. Got the little bit bigger one to put in there. And do the same thing like you did the bottom race. Alright, you can see that. I'll coat that a little bit. Like I said, I put it in pretty thick. I've always done this and I've never had no issues. I tell you what, if you don't mind staring at the ground for a little bit, I'm going to be right back. I'm going to get that bearing. I'm going to gob this hand up real quick. Okay, so I'm back. This is about how much I'll say probably about a half a quarter, or quarter, or $50. Actually, I would say $50. But anyway, and this is actually going to actually work out pretty decent, because that way y'all can see it push through. So I'll just take it just like that, and I'll just get right there at the edge of my, I don't dunk it all the way into the grease, I just work it in, and you can see how that grease is coming. And I'll just keep working it all the way around. Now this is excess grease, I'll just pull it back out. Alright. This is actually my fun part. And I just keep doing this until it's fully packed. Like I said, it's kind of hard to do a little bit because I don't know. See that grease is coming right out of there nicely. And I'll do the other bearing the same way. And I'll just take the excess of it. And I'll keep feeding it through. Like I said, I'm kind of at a awkward position here, trying to do it, but okay, I got a little bit more than I said. Usually don't really need to actually have that much, because about, like I said, about $50 or so is about all you're gonna need. But like I said, I'm packing it pretty good, so. And honestly, I think I love doing this because of the fact, number one, you can't get any more old school than this. You're not worrying about a machine to pack it for you. You are the machine, So, like I said, when I first started learning actually how to pack bearings is when I was about 15, 16 years old. And fell in love with it since. So anyway, I'm going to try to pause y'all so now y'all can actually see. I'm going to just go ahead and actually install this bearing real quick. And just going to drop that off in there. I'm going to, whatever else that I have in my hand, I'm just going to fill in that area. And the wheel seal will be on next, on top of that. Let me see if I can pause y'all real quick. I'm gonna unpause y'all. So I've got the little bitty bearing. This one will actually be a little bit easier for you because you can actually get it right there on that knuckle. So, and it's gonna, like I said, it'll work out a little bit better for you, because you can use your middle finger to help turn it, whereas the bigger bearing kind of a little bit rough. So just kind of get right there at the edge of that grease and turn it. Keep doing it. To some people, this would probably be satisfying to them. I'm going to go ahead and pause y'all real quick. Alright. I might have to have 2 hands to hold this real quick. Alright, so anyway, I got it started. When you hear that sound all the way around, good and seated. And I take a little bit of grease and I go ahead and head right off in there. I want to make sure I get that seal a little bit greased up so that way it's not going in dry. Come over here to the spindle. And I just take and wipe all of this out really good. So I'll have to use a couple more of these towels and get it nice and clean. Check for any grooves, which I don't see any. Everything looks good and flat on both sides. Just go through and clean all that up real nice. Want to get back in here and clean that up, clean the spindle, and be ready to set the rotor in. Wiped everything off, cleaned the spindle really good. Turned around and re-greased it. Alright, so now I'm going to grab my bearing that's really packed really good. The tapered end goes inside. One. Shit, hang on a minute. Had to pull the rotor out and then push the bearing in, then push everything back in. Okay, now got these two cleaned, the washer and the castle nut. I've got a new I've got another carter pin that I'm going to put in here. Alright, so this is the part that I want to show y'all. Get that lined up right there. This is the way I was taught, and this is the way I've been doing things ever since. That has the hub. Hand tighten it all the way up tight. Hang on a second. Sorry that y'all had to see darkness. And what I do is I turn it just slight until it gets snug. That's about snug. Right there. Alright. Then turn it. Actually, it could go a little bit more technically. Pretty much right when it starts kind of tightening up. So basically a good snug tight. Then come on. So basically turn it till it gets a good snug tight. And pretty much nearly a quarter of a turn. I'm gonna turn that back. Just until it basically just loosens up. Let's see here. Damn it. So yeah, tight. And just back it off just a little bit. And there's no front end play. Nada. So, snug tight, and then just back it off a little. And you'll back it off till you see that hole. And once you see that hole, put your carter key in there and bend it both ways, and you're done. This is, you know, basically you're just taking out all the guesswork. And I've done that for a long time. A lot of people, they'll sit there and they'll tighten it up, or they'll take and they'll inch, and it's still loose, and they're still tightening, still loose. Ain't gotta do all that. Just good snug tight, and then just back off. You're good to go. Good to go. So that's the way I do them. Never had no problems, and it's worked. So, all right. I got the carter key in. I'll just put the dust cover back on. I usually fill the dust covers up, usually with a little bit of grease, and just kind of helps with that spline or the spindle. You probably don't have to. I usually do. I've always done it for years. So I just kind of tap. that should be good. I may tap a little bit there now at the bottom. And the last thing to do is put on the caliper. I'm just going to run through this. I mean, y'all have probably seen me do this many a times with a couple of my videos. Is pull the brake pad off, get you a C-clamp, preferably a big one. You can use that pad there and put across here, press that piston in. That's why I said you want to just basically take the cap off of your reservoir up there. That way it allows the fluid to push back through and keeps from breaking or busting a line or busting the seal or breaking the piston inside the caliper. So I'm not going to run through all that. Y'all should know what to do on this. Is just put it back up, run the 2 bolts through. You can clean them up. I'm going to clean mine up, and I'm going to actually re-grease mine and then put it all back together. Like I said, later on, I'm probably going to end up swapping all of this out for some drilled and slotted rotors for the fronts, and end up doing a brake job, because there's a lip right there, and it's all the way around. It's not horrible. Probably could be resurfaced, but it's flat on the back side. It's flat, so brakes are not wearing uneven. It's uneven. There's actually more pad here than there is there, but that's okay, because guess what? I'm getting ready to basically flush the whole brake system in this car. And the reason why is because it's never had a brake flush done. See how black that is? That's black. So I'm going to do a whole brake flush in this vehicle eventually. So anyway, guys, that is how you wheel bearings removal and installation. That's how you do it. Showed you. So anyway, y'all have fun. I'm gonna be glad to get this thing back on the road. Like I said, I got the tank in finally. I just got to put gas in it to make sure that the fuel gauge is going to be working properly. Hopefully all that's good. So anyway, guys, hopefully, like I said, I'll have more videos coming on this car. And so just have a project at the moment, but I'm trying to get it done before November 23rd, because me and my fiance is going to be trying to get married. So I like to try to get this done before November 23rd. So hopefully everything works out good, it'll be done. So it's just time. So anyway, guys, see y'all later. God bless. Have fun. And keep wrenching on these damn cars. Keep them on the road. Later.